Welcome to another episode of Growing for Good with Funding for Good, and welcome to 2017. I thought I would share a little bit of a personal story with you guys, maybe to help motivate you. And everybody's in a different place all the time. Some people are growing in their careers and loving it, learning new things all the time. Some people are at an impasse and don't know where to go with their careers. Some people have been in a career that has, for some reason or another, ended, and some people are retiring, some people are just graduating school. So everybody finds themselves in a different place. And I get the question often, how did you start your business? And a lot of people that don't know me or haven't been around me since I started my business don't know my story, and I haven't told a lot of people my story. I did one presentation this past year to a group of women for an Inspiring Women's Luncheon about how my business got started. And I don't have time to tell the whole story from beginning to end here, but I thought I would just share a little bit about it with you to maybe inspire you wherever you are in your career, in your life. Maybe you're not working and you don't know what you'd like to be doing. Maybe you're working and you've decided you're ready to retire or switch jobs, or maybe you're working for someone else and you're ready to start your own business. But it doesn't really matter where you are. I think my story will potentially help motivate you in whatever decision you are trying to make for your career. I found myself unemployed in 2008 unexpectedly after working in the same job for about 7.5 years. And it was a job that I loved. And this was right around the time the economy crashed. I had just thought I was going to buy my first house and decided not to at the last minute, which ended up being a very good decision on my part. And I worked part-time for a lot of nonprofits, doing a lot of things when I wasn't at my full-time job. And my unemployment came very unexpectedly and very suddenly, as many people's did during that time in our economy. I didn't have a backup plan, and I had money saved, but not what you might consider a ton. And so I really wasn't that worried about it initially. I figured I would find another job or decide something else I was going to do. And for a couple of years, I had talked about starting my own business, but it hadn't ever become a priority for me, and I hadn't really focused on it. Well, when this happened, I was even less motivated to work on my business because I was sort of, after about 4 or 5 months, kind of getting into a crisis mode in my head because I hadn't found a job. I had applied for a lot of jobs. I felt like I was pretty qualified. I had a 4-year degree. I had a master's degree. I had a lot of experience. And I was applying for jobs, but I wasn't getting interviews, or I would get an interview and I wouldn't get the job. And part of me got really depressed. Many of you know I have a dog, Leo, and Leo helped me through that time a lot because he was my motivation from day to day to get up, to go walk, to have something that I had to do every day. I took a lot of odd jobs. I took anything basically that would help pay the bills. And I went from an income that was collectively around $65,000 to under 20 in the course of that 6-month time frame. And that's a pretty big shock, and that's a pretty big change in your financial situation, along with the things that you do during a day, during a week, with your friends. And I was lucky enough after about 6 months to secure a part-time job that paid very little but helped pay my bills. And it was within walking distance of where I was living at the time, so I didn't have to drive my car as much. And I could take Leo with me occasionally to work, so I didn't have to leave him in my apartment all the time by himself. So that was good. But at the same time, I was still depressed. I was barely making it paycheck to paycheck. I did without a lot of things. I lost a lot of weight that year. I ate a lot of vegetable soup. I didn't tell people a lot about that time period because A, I was depressed, and B, I wasn't sure what my purpose in life was, or if I had one. And I remember asking my mom to come and go to lunch with me one day. Gosh, it had been about a year since I had been unemployed full time, and I was really depressed. And she drove down from where they live, about an hour away, and we walked across the street and had pizza for lunch, which was a treat for me because I hadn't eaten out in a while. And I just remember sitting at lunch and telling her, you know, I'm not really sure anyone would miss me if I wasn't here tomorrow. And that was a really, really hard time for me because I had always been extremely motivated and I'd always been very busy and always had a lot of things going on. So I remember having the ability with my phone company to upgrade my phone during that winter. And I thought, you know, it would be really great if I could have a smartphone so I could get my emails even when I didn't have access to a computer. And so I got my first BlackBerry. And I had a couple of friends that told me, you should put an ad on Craigslist for your grant writing services and let people know what you do. Maybe you'll get some extra business that way. And so I did. And I was, it was on a weekend. I put it up on a Friday, and on a Saturday morning, I got a response. And I was shocked. I was so excited. I was so happy. And it was a company out of California. And that company had asked me if I would step in and teach a grant writing workshop for them for the Recovery Act money, that the instructor that they had hired was having a family emergency and they were going to be unable to be there. And they would pay me $1,500 for the 2 days. They would pay for my accommodations. All the materials would be sent to me. And there were 20 people registered for the class. And I said, oh my gosh, yes. I was so excited. That was more money than I had seen in several months. And it would have been for 2 days. And I said, absolutely. So they sent me over all the paperwork and I started filling stuff out. And this was Saturday morning. I had to be in Charlotte Sunday night. And so I didn't really do a lot of background checking on this. And I, you know, in my mind, I was like, oh my gosh, everything happens for a reason. This is awesome. And I was very excited. So I get to Charlotte. I got everything. I got there. My hotel room was paid for. Had all the materials that I needed, and I decided, you know what, this has been such a blessing. I'm going to go out to, and I bought breakfast for everyone because I realized there wouldn't be any breakfast available in the event already paid for. And so I did that, spent money that I didn't have at the moment, but knew I would be reimbursed for. And so that started teaching the class the first day, and people started asking me questions like, where is their receipt for the workshop, and how do they get this, and how do they get that? And so I was emailing and calling the lady who had been in touch with, and she answered my phone calls and my emails up until about lunchtime. And then I couldn't get in touch with her anymore. So that night I had a whole bunch of questions from people in the class, and I said that I would do my best to get answers for them and get back to them the next morning. Well, I couldn't get back in touch with those people. They never called me back. They never emailed me back. So I started doing some research on my own and realized that it was a huge scam. They had been doing it for years all across the country. This company would have like a restaurant in California process the payments for them so it wasn't traceable, and then they would pay it, or say they were going to pay an instructor to come in and teach it. So they get all the money, the instructor comes in and does the professional teaching part, and they never pay the instructor, and nobody gets their receipt or any of that information because it's not a real company. And so I went back the second day to finish the workshop. I tried my best to teach the best that I could, but their materials weren't wonderful, and people were pissed off because they thought I was associated with this organization and this company, which was not the case. So I finished that, go home, realize I'm probably not going to get paid. Thankfully did not have to pay for my hotel room. That was covered. But left in the hole because I had spent money on gas, I had spent money on food while I was there, I spent money to purchase things for the attendees of the workshop, and I ended up not getting paid. And I was really even more depressed about that once I got back because I felt like I had been trying really hard, that I had been taking jobs just to be able to make ends meet, and then this happened. And I had the booklet from the workshop sitting on my table in my living room, dining room area. I kept walking past it every day when I would take Leo in and out to walk. And one day I sat there and looked at it and I thought, you know what? I could really do a better workshop than what they offered and cover more information than people need to know about grant writing specifically, not specifically about the Recovery Act, but I think I could do that. So I sat down for the next 3 months and created my first PowerPoint. I'd never created a PowerPoint before, and it was like reading Greek to me, but I did it. And I had the guy that I worked for give me the opportunity to teach at the space where I was working, and the community was actually very receptive. I had 37 people in my first workshop in January of 2009. I charged, I think it was $225 or $250 a person, and I worked exceptionally hard. I prepared more than I needed to. It was an amazing event. My mom came down and helped me for the day, and it was so well received that there was enough people on the waiting list to offer a second workshop. And that was the very beginning of my business, and it was part-time, and at the time it was called Grant Cruise. And I really focused on just grant writing and teaching grant writing for about 3 years, but I always had another job on the side. And over the course of time, that turned into consulting and helping people with development plans and working with boards and volunteers and all the other things that Funding for Good does now. Funding for Good became an official business in 2013, and we went full-time with the business in October of 2014. Now, there's a whole bunch of things that happened in the course of that time, and there's a whole bunch more that happened to lead up to getting us started, but I let you know that just to let you know that it was over 1.5 years that I was unemployed full-time, part of that time unemployed completely, taking jobs. I remember painting someone's mailbox to help buy groceries. I remember walking to the grocery store from my apartment and only having change in my pocket and having to choose between buying Leo's food or buying meat for my vegetable soup. And 9 times out of 10, I bought Leo's food and we didn't have meat in our soup. But we ate a lot of soup because I always can and freeze vegetables in the summer, and I had a lot of frozen tomatoes at the time. So I let you guys know that to know that it doesn't really matter where you are right now. I believe everything happens for a reason, the good stuff and the bad stuff. I believe that if you look hard enough, you will find what it is you're supposed to be doing. I had to get in a very bad place in my head before I was ready to start my own business. I had talked about it for a long time, but I never followed through with actually doing it. I feel like God had a plan for me, for my life, and He had to put me in a place where I didn't have any other choices. And now I'm working for myself, and I love it, and I've been blessed with support and followers and collaborators and people that are in my field who I feel like have taken me and put me under their wing and really helped me grow in my professional skills. And I still have a lot to learn. I'm still growing every day as a consultant, as a teacher, as an entrepreneur and a business person. And everything I do doesn't work out well. Everything I do doesn't end up roses, you know? So, it's a learning experience from day to day. And there were a lot of bad things that happened in my professional job before I started full-time with my business that helped me get to this point too. And that's a whole nother story. But I just let you know that the challenges that you're facing or the thoughts that you have about what you might like to do someday are all there for a reason. Listen to them and know that it doesn't matter where you are right now. You might be in a very different place in 6 months or a year or 5 years. If you had asked me 5 years ago if I thought I would be where I am today, I would not. I would not have thought that at all. And we just never know from day to day what opportunities are going to come our way. So I encourage you to keep an open mind and be able to look at all sides of a situation, even when you feel like it's a bad one, because there may be an opportunity in there, like that presentation that sat on my table for a week that you haven't seen yet. So whatever comes your way in 2017, I hope that you make the best of it. I hope that you are ready to grow and learn new things. That's not always fun and that's not always easy, but it usually is helpful in the long run. And if there's anything we can do for you here at Funding for Good, please let us know. We're always looking for ideas for new vlogs, new blogs, and ways that we can share information that will be helpful to you. So please feel free to email those to us at mandy@fundingforgood.org. And we look forward to more interactions with you during 2017. Have a great start. We'll talk to you soon.